Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're here to take rich source material and really pull out the most vital insights for you.
That's right. Imagine having like a direct line to some of the most profound stories, the foundational texts that have really shaped human civilization. Today, we're taking a deep dive into this extraordinary collection of ancient sources.
Yeah.
Excerpts from the Old Testament of the Bible.
Yeah, and our goal with this deep dive really is to pull out the most important ideas, the key insights from these ancient texts. Think of it as maybe a shortcut, a way to get well-informed about narratives that have influenced billions of people.
Right.
We'll cover quite a bit: creation, kings, laws, very personal journeys of faith, sometimes folly too. And what's really remarkable, I think, is how these texts still offer these fresh, really powerful insights into human nature, governance, our interaction with the divine, even how we understand right and wrong.
Okay, so let's unpack this, starting right at the very beginning, the dawn of history, creation, early humanity, and a world reset. Our sources, they open with a description of the Garden of Eden. Sounds like this place of amazing abundance, right? Watered by a river that splits.
Into 4 headwaters, yeah. Reaching lands known for gold, aromatic resin, onyx. You get the picture. A perfect environment.
It sounds idyllic.
Yeah.
But what was humanity's role there? Just enjoyment.
Well, that's what's fascinating. Not passive enjoyment, actually. The text says the Lord God placed man there to work it and take care of it. So an active role from the get-go.
Okay, work and care. But then the challenge.
Ah, yes, the first profound challenge. The serpent's deception. The serpent tells the woman basically, eat this, your eyes will be opened, you'll be like God, knowing good and evil. A huge temptation.
And the consequence of choosing that.
Well, the woman saw the fruit was, good for food, pleasing to look at, and desirable for wisdom. So a triple threat, really.
She took it, ate it, gave it to her husband.
Who was right there with her, the text notes.
Yeah.
And then, bam, their eyes were opened.
They realized they were naked.
Exactly. And they scrambled to make coverings out of fig leaves. It's this foundational story of temptation, choice, and immediate consequence.
So what does this reveal? About that struggle with forbidden knowledge, maybe. The cost.
It shows an immediate loss of innocence, definitely. Yeah. A new awareness of vulnerability, shame. And from that first act, we pivot quickly to the first crime. Cain and Abel.
Right. Abel's blood crying from the ground.
Yeah.
Such a visceral image.
It really is. And Cain's punishment. He's cursed, driven from the ground, which won't yield crops for him anymore. He becomes a restless wanderer, terrified.
Fearful that anyone finding him would kill him. It highlights those ripple effects, doesn't it? Beyond just the individual.
Absolutely. Affects his relationship with the land, with other people. That fear, that loss of connection, it's immediate.
And then we jump forward, quite dramatically, to a global reset.
Yeah.
Noah and the Great Flood.
Yes, and the emphasis here is on Noah's obedience. He did all that the Lord commanded him. Total compliance in the face of this impending cataclysm.
He was 600 years old, the sources say, when the floodwaters hit. Him, his family, the animals, into the ark.
And the scale of this flood is just immense. The sources describe all the springs of the great deep bursting forth, the floodgates of the heavens opening, total inundation.
A complete reset.
Yeah.
So what happened post-flood?
A new beginning. God blesses Noah and his sons, commands them to be fruitful and increase in number and fill the earth. It's like a second chance for humanity.
And a change in diet.
Yes, a key point. All living things are given as food, but with one crucial prohibition. You must not eat meat that has its lifeblood still in it. A foundational dietary law emphasizing life's sacredness.
Okay, so moving from this global reset, we enter the shaping of a people. Patriarchs, promises, and trials. Starts with Abraham, or Abram, as he was first called. And there's this interesting test of trust story early on in Egypt.
Right. Abram goes to Egypt, tells everyone his wife Sarai is actually his sister. He's afraid they'll kill him for her.
And Pharaoh treats him well because of Sarai. He gets wealthy.
Very wealthy. Sheep, cattle, donkeys, servants, camels, the works. But it shows this human imperfection, right? Even in these pivotal figures, faith isn't always flawless.
It seems like fear took over for a moment there.
Exactly. But the narrative shows divine intervention. The Lord inflicts diseases on Pharaoh's household because of Sarai. God's protecting her, despite Abram's deception.
So Pharaoh figures it out.
He does. Summons Abram, basically says, "What have you done?" and sends him away with everything he'd gained.
And soon after that, Abram and his nephew Lot part ways.
Yes, their possessions were too great to stay together. Lot chooses the plain of the Jordan near Sodom.
And Sodom is described as
wicked and were sinning greatly against the Lord. That choice of location definitely foreshadows trouble.
Right. After Lot leaves, God makes a big promise to Abram.
A huge promise, all the land he can see for him and his offspring forever. But there's the issue of an heir.
Sarai couldn't have children.
So she suggests Abram sleep with her Egyptian maidservant, Hagar, to build a family through her.
A human solution to a divine promise problem.
And it leads to immediate conflict. Hagar conceives, then despises Sarai. Later, God intervenes again, helps Hagar, and her son Ishmael grows up in the desert, an archer. It shows how trying to force things can complicate matters.
Indeed. Then comes the formal covenant sealing, name changes.
Right. Abram becomes Abraham, father of many nations. Sarai becomes Sarah, princess or mother of nations. Signifies a new identity, a divine purpose.
And God promises a son through Sarah, even though they're incredibly old. Abraham laughs.
Abraham lasts at 100, Sarah lasts later at 90. It seemed impossible. But God insists Sarah will bear Isaac.
And circumcision has established that.
Yes, as a physical sign of the covenant, any uncircumcised male will be cut off from his people, a very serious mark of belonging.
Then we revisit Sodom. Angels arrive.
2 angels, messengers of the Lord. Lot insists they stay with him, showing hospitality even in a wicked city.
And they warn him.
Urgently. Get out, the city's about to be destroyed because of the outcry against its people. But his sons-in-law, they think he's joking. Tragic disbelief.
And then comes arguably the most challenging story. The binding of Isaac.
The ultimate test, as the sources frame it. Abraham is commanded to sacrifice Isaac, his only son of promise.
He goes through with it, builds the altar, binds Isaac, raises the knife.
But an angel stops him at the last second. God provides a ram instead. And because of Abraham's absolute obedience, God reaffirms the blessing descendants like stars and sand and blessing all nations through his offspring. It's profoundly about faith and testing.
After these huge events, life goes on. Sarah dies.
At 127 in Hebron, Abraham buys the cave of Machpelah from a Hittite, Ephron, as a burial site. It's the first piece of the Promised Land actually owned.
Establishing a foothold, and then finding a wife for Isaac.
Abraham sends his servant back to his homeland. The servant prays for a specific sign, a woman who will offer water to him and his camels, a sign of generosity.
And Rebekah fulfills this.
Exactly. Rebekah, Abraham's grandniece, does precisely that, proves her kindness. The servant explains Abraham's wealth and the oath not to take a Canaanite wife. It shows divine guidance in finding the right partner.
Abraham lives a long life.
175 years. Gives gifts to his other sons from concubines, sends them eastward, and then Isaac and Ishmael bury him with Sarah in Machpelah. A long, impactful legacy.
And that legacy continues with Isaac and Jacob. God reaffirms the promise to Isaac.
Yes, at Beersheba. Increases his descendants for the sake of my servant Abraham. Isaac even makes a treaty with a local king, Abimelech, who sees God is with him.
But then, the family drama continues with Jacob and Esau, the stolen blessing.
Ah, yes. Jacob, prompted by Rebekah, disguises himself, hairy hands, Esau's clothes, to trick his blind father Isaac into giving him the firstborn blessing meant for Esau.
Classic sibling rivalry, deception, but maybe also divine will working through flawed people.
That's a key tension in these narratives. Isaac then commands Jacob not to marry a Canaanite, but to go to Laban's house, Rebekah's brother, for a wife, blessing him again to be fruitful and inherit the land.
So Jacob goes to Laban, and his family life there is complicated.
Very. He marries both Leah and Rachel. Leah has several sons, including Levi and Judah, key tribal ancestors. Rachel is initially barren, jealous, demands children, which angers Jacob. It's very messy, very human.
Then Rachel has Joseph.
Yes. And after Joseph's birth, Jacob wants to go home. But Laban has prospered because of Jacob. He sees the Lord blessed him through Jacob, so he doesn't want him to leave.
But Jacob decides to flee, deceptively.
He does. And Rachel secretly steals her father Laban's household gods, teraphim, maybe representing inheritance or family protection. Laban pursues them.
But God intervenes.
Warns Laban in a dream, don't say anything to Jacob, good or bad. So the confrontation is tense, but not violent.
Jacob also has other divine encounters on his journey.
Yes, he's met by angels of God, calls the place Mahanaim, 2 camps, perhaps reflecting his own divided state or God's army alongside his own small group. He then sends messengers ahead to Esau, trying to reconcile.
More tragedy strikes his family, though. Rachel dies.
Sadly, yes, giving birth to Benjamin. She names him Benoni, son of my sorrow, but Jacob calls him Benjamin, son of my right hand. A poignant moment. She's buried near Bethlehem.
Then the 12 sons are listed, the foundation of the tribes, And Reuben's transgression.
Yes, Reuben sleeps with Bilhah, his father's concubine, a serious offense that impacts his standing later. The sources also list Esau's descendants, the chiefs of Edom, marking the distinct path of that nation.
Right. And from this complex family backdrop, one son, Joseph, takes center stage, leading us into From Bondage to a Nation, Joseph, Moses, and the Law. It starts with those dreams, doesn't it? Fueling sibling rivalry.
Oh, absolutely. His dreams of his brother's sheaves bowing to his, the sun, moon, 11 stars bowing, it clearly predicts his future authority, and his brothers hated him for it.
Sold into slavery, ends up in Egypt.
Yeah.
Eventually in Pharaoh's prison.
Where his gift for interpreting dreams resurfaces, he correctly interprets the chief baker's dream predicting his execution. It comes true, but Joseph is forgotten for a while.
Until Pharaoh has dreams nobody can interpret.
Exactly. Then Joseph is remembered. He interprets Pharaoh's dreams of famine, gets elevated to second in command.
And the famine hits. Jacob sends his sons to Egypt for grain, except Benjamin.
Yes. And Joseph, now this powerful Egyptian governor, recognizes them immediately when they bow down. Just like his dream.
He tests them, accuses them of spying.
He does. Puts them through the ringer, demands they bring Benjamin back to prove their story. It's a tense reunion process.
When they returned with Benjamin,
Joseph is overcome. He weeps, embraces Benjamin, reveals himself, and kisses all his brothers. A very powerful moment of reconciliation.
Joseph's leadership during the famine was pretty remarkable.
Extremely. Great foresight. He institutes a system where people sell their land and eventually themselves for food, taking a fifth of the crop for Pharaoh. It's described as reducing them to servitude.
But not the priest's land.
Correct. The priests had regular allotments from Pharaoh, so their land wasn't bought. Shows a certain nuance in his administration.
And Jacob's final blessings before he dies.
Very significant. He blesses Joseph's sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, but crosses his hands, giving the younger Ephraim the primary blessing. Another reversal, showing divine choice over tradition.
He also gives prophecies about his other sons.
Yes, vivid descriptions. Reuben, turbulent as the waters, Simeon and Levi having weapons of violence, Benjamin, a ravenous wolf. These give insight into the character and future of the tribes.
And his final wish.
To be buried back in Canaan, in the cave of Machpelah with his ancestors, connecting back to the promise, even at the end of his life in Egypt. So Joseph brings Israel into Egypt, but then generations later, we see the situation change dramatically, leading to the Exodus and Sinai covenant.
Right. The oppression ramps up. A new Pharaoh doesn't know Joseph.
And the Egyptians fear the Israelites' growing numbers. They impose harsh slavery, forced labor building cities like Pithom and Ramesses.
But the oppression backfires.
It does. The more they were oppressed, the more they multiplied. They became a source of dread for the Egyptians, resilience under pressure.
Then comes Moses, his confrontation with Pharaoh. Let my people go.
And Pharaoh's repeated refusal, which leads to the 10 plagues, locusts, hail, darkness, each targeting Egyptian gods or life. The narrative says the Lord hardened Pharaoh's heart.
That's a complex idea.
It is, often interpreted as God strengthening Pharaoh's resolve in the path he'd already chosen, ensuring the full display of God's power in the deliverance.
Culminating in the Passover.
Yes, instituted as a permanent ordinance. The Lord passes over the Israelite houses marked with blood while striking down the Egyptian firstborn, a night of judgment and salvation.
And this leads to the command about the firstborn.
Exactly. All firstborn males belong to the Lord, set apart as a constant reminder of this deliverance from death.
Then the escape. The Red Sea miracle.
Absolutely pivotal. Moses stretches out his hand, the sea parts, the Israelites walk through on dry ground, walls of water on either side.
And the pursuing Egyptian army.
Completely destroyed, the waters crash back down on them, chariots, horsemen, all drowned, a stunning display of divine power and protection.
But life in the wilderness wasn't easy. Challenges arose quickly.
Immediately. Grumbling about food and water, they long for the flesh pots of Egypt. God provides manna, this mysterious bread from heaven.
Described like coriander seed, tasting like olive oil. A daily test of trust, right? Only gather what you need for the day.
Precisely. Then the incident with the spies sent into Canaan.
Most come back with a bad report, focusing on giants and fortified cities.
Yes, only Joshua and Caleb have faith they can take the land. The people weep, want to go back to Egypt. A massive failure of faith.
And the consequence.
Severe. That entire generation, 20 years and older, except Joshua and Caleb, are condemned to wander and die in the wilderness for, well, 40 years in total, 38 more from that point, a direct result of their disobedience.
Even Moses faced consequences later. The incident at Meribah.
Right, told to speak to the rock to bring water, but he strikes it twice in anger or frustration, because he didn't honor God as holy before the people.
He and Aaron are told they won't lead the people into the promised land, a heavy price.
It shows no one is above accountability. The journey continues, stage by stage. Aaron dies on Mount Hor. The old generation is passing away.
We also get the strange story of Balaam and Balak.
Yes, the Moabite king Balak tries to hire Balaam to curse Israel. God forbids it initially. Later, Balaam goes, but can only utter blessings, constrained by God's will. Even his donkey talks to him at one point.
It's quite a detour.
Ah.
And the incident with Phinehas. Zeal in the wilderness.
A stark moment. An Israelite brings a Midianite woman into the camp during a plague. Phinehas, Aaron's grandson, takes a spear and kills them both. The plague stops. It's presented as righteous zeal that averted further disaster, though it's quite brutal.
Okay, so after all this wandering, they arrive at Mount Sinai. And this is where the laws from Sinai are given, a foundational moment.
Absolutely. The Lord descends in a dense cloud, fire, smoke, speaks from heaven so the people will hear and trust Moses. Boundaries are set, don't even touch the mountain or you die, emphasizing profound holiness.
And the core commands, the 10 Commandments are part of this, but there's more.
Much more. No other gods, no idols, specific instructions for building altars, simple, uncut stones, setting the stage for proper worship.
And beyond worship, laws for society.
A whole legal code, really. Justice, social order, capital offenses for things like attacking parents or kidnapping, restitution for theft, payback double.
Rules about lending, helping the poor.
Yes. Lend without interest to the needy, return a pledged cloak by sunset so they don't freeze, don't curse God or rulers, offer firstborn sons to God. It's a comprehensive ethical system.
Even rules about enemies.
Remarkably, yes. Return an enemy's lost animal. Help their donkey if it's fallen. Do not deny justice to the poor. No false charges, no bribes. It's about fairness and integrity, even towards adversaries.
Then come the detailed plans for the Tabernacle, the portable sanctuary.
Incredibly detailed. The Ark of the Testimony, the atonement cover with cherubim, the courtyard curtains, specific colors, materials, silver, bronze, everything meticulously specified.
Priestly garments, too.
Yes, the ephod, breastpiece with stones, tunic, turban, braided gold chains, a laver for washing, symbolizing purity, special anointing oil, special incense, unique formulas, not to be copied. It's all about setting apart the sacred.
And specific people chosen for the craftsmanship.
Bezalel and Oholiab, divinely gifted, the text says, with skill in all the necessary crafts. God equipping people for his service.
But right after these amazing instructions, disaster strikes. The golden calf.
A huge setback. While Moses is still up the mountain receiving the law, the people get impatient, scared. They pressure Aaron.
And he makes a golden calf idol.
Yes.
Sacrifice to it.
Yes, a direct violation of the very first commands they received. God's anger burns fiercely. He threatens to destroy them all and start over with Moses.
But Moses intercedes.
He pleads with God, reminds him of his promises to Abraham, Isaac, Israel, and God relents. It's a powerful moment of intercession and divine mercy.
Moses then asks to see God's glory.
He does. A bold request. God agrees to let his goodness pass before Moses, proclaiming his name, merciful, gracious, slow to anger, but hides Moses in a cleft of rock so he doesn't see God's face directly.
So the covenant has to be renewed after this breach.
Yes. Moses goes back up the mountain for another 40 days and nights, gets new stone tablets with the 10 Commandments. The relationship is restored, but the incident leaves a scar.
The Levitical priesthood is formally set up then.
Aaron and his sons are consecrated. The Levites are chosen to assist them, taking the place of the firstborn. They're counted, organized, purified. A whole system for worship and mediation is established.
And specific feasts and ordinances are laid out.
Passover, the Day of Atonement, Yom Kippur, a day of denial and repentance, the Feast of Tabernacles, Sukkot. These create a rhythm for the year, marking sacred time and commemorating God's acts.
Rules about the land itself, the Sabbath year, the Jubilee.
Very unique aspects. Every 7th year, the land rests. And the 50th year, the Jubilee debts are canceled, slaves freed, land returns to original family owners. It's designed to prevent permanent poverty and land accumulation.
What about slaves from other nations?
They could be bought, but the Jubilee provided a mechanism for release for Hebrew slaves. It's a complex system reflecting the ancient world, but with unique social justice elements.
And clear consequences for disobedience laid out.
Absolutely. If they reject God's laws, the land itself will suffer, become desolate, they'll be scattered among nations, lose their way spiritually. It links obedience directly to national well-being and their relationship with the land.
But there's still a promise of remembrance.
Yes, even in exile, God says he won't completely destroy them, he'll remember his covenant. A thread of hope persists. There are also rules for dedicating property, setting values, further organizing life around God's law. Okay, so after Sinai, they eventually move towards the Promised Land, leading us into conquest and settlement under Joshua.
Starting with crossing the Jordan River, the 12 stones.
Right. One man from each tribe takes a stone from the middle of the riverbed while the priests stand there holding back the water. These stones become a memorial, a tangible reminder of God's miraculous help.
And the story of Rahab in Jericho.
A fascinating inclusion. She's a prostitute, a Canaanite, yet she recognizes God's power and helps the Israelite spies. They promise to save her and her family when the city falls.
Which they do. The city is destroyed, burned, but Rahab is spared.
Yes, and the precious metals, silver, gold, bronze, iron, are dedicated to the Lord's treasury, not personal plunder.
Covenant renewal seems important as they enter the land.
Very. Joshua builds an altar on Mount Ebal, just as Moses instructed, offers sacrifices, writes the law of Moses on stones for everyone to see, a public recommitment.
But they get tricked by the Gibeonites.
They do. The Gibeonites pretend to be from far away, make a treaty with Israel, then Israel discovers they're actually local Canaanites.
So what happens? They can't break the treaty.
Right, so the Gibeonites are spared destruction, but are made woodcutters and water carriers for the community, serving the Israelites. A consequence of deception on both sides, perhaps.
The battles described seem to involve divine intervention quite often.
Definitely. The famous instance where Joshua commands the sun and moon to stand still during a battle against 5 kings, the text says there was no day like it when the Lord listened to a man, God fighting for Israel.
And the defeated kings.
Joshua has his commanders put their feet on the necks of the captured kings, a symbol of total victory before executing them.
The conquest sounds quite brutal in parts. Totally destroyed cities.
The language is stark. Cities like Lachish, Hebron, Debir, everyone killed, including kings. The sources list numerous conquered kings, depicting a swift, decisive, and divinely mandated military campaign.
Then comes the massive task of dividing the land.
According to the tribal allotments promised earlier, instructions are given for the 9.5 tribes west of the Jordan. Specific boundaries are detailed: Wadi of Egypt, Salt Sea, Jordan River, fulfilling the promise.
But the conquest wasn't complete.
That's a crucial point. Some tribes, like Manasseh, couldn't drive out all the Canaanites in their allotted territory. The Canaanites were determined to live there.
And later.
Later, when Israel grew stronger, they put the Canaanites to forced labor, but still didn't drive them out completely. This sets the stage for future problems: assimilation, idolatry.
How was the land division organized?
Quite formally. Men were sent to survey the land, write descriptions in 7 parts. Then Joshua cast lots at Shiloh before the Lord, ensuring a divinely guided and fair distribution.
And the altar built by the tribes east of the Jordan. That caused some alarm.
Yes, the tribes of Reuben, Gad, and half Manasseh built a large altar by the Jordan. The western tribes thought it was a rival altar for sacrifice, almost leading to civil war.
But it wasn't for sacrifice.
No, they explained it was an altar of witness. A reminder for future generations that they, too, were part of Israel, worshiping the same God even though separated by the river. A symbol of unity.
As Joshua gets older, he gives a final warning.
A powerful farewell address. Be strong, obey the law, don't turn aside, don't intermarry with the remaining nations. He foresees the dangers.
And his warning proved necessary. What happened after he died?
Exactly as feared. Another generation grew up who knew neither the Lord nor what he had done for Israel. They turned to idols, disobeyed. God allowed their enemies to oppress them,
Leading to great distress.
which sets up the repeating pattern of the next era, the period of the judges. Israel sins, they're oppressed, they cry out to God,
And God raises up a judge, a deliverer.
who saves them. But then, after the judge dies,
They fall back into sin, often worse than before. It's a grim cycle.
it really is. And this leads us right into cycles of deliverance and the call for a king, the judges. This pattern is the defining feature of the book.
So who were some of these key deliverers, these judges?
We see quite a few. Ehud, a left-handed Benjaminite, assassinates the obese king Eglon of Moab, brings 80 years of peace.
80 years, that's significant.
Then Shamgar, who strikes down 600 Philistines with an ox-goad, basically a pointed stick for prodding cattle, shows incredible individual heroism.
And Deborah. a female judge.
Yes. Deborah, a prophetess, leading Israel. She summons Barak to fight Jabin, king of Canaan, and his commander, Sisera.
But the final victory involves another woman, Jael.
Correct. Sisera flees the battle, seeks refuge in the tent of Jael. While he's asleep, she draws a tent peg through his temple, a brutal but decisive end to the oppression.
Then there's Gideon, famous for the small army.
Exactly. God tells him his army is too big. He whittles it down to just 300 men. They rout the massive Midianite army using trumpets, torches, and psychological warfare. Later, he captures the Midianite kings, Zebah and Zalmunna.
Shows God's power isn't in numbers. But not all judges were heroic.
Abimelech.
Abimelech is Gideon's son, but he's more of an anti-judge. He murders 70 of his own brothers to seize power in Shechem.
70 brothers. Ruthless ambition. Totally. God sends an evil spirit between him and the citizens of Shechem, who then betray him. He retaliates brutally, burning 1,000 people alive in a stronghold, then dies besieging another town when a woman drops a millstone on his head. A grim story of power corrupting.
Jephthah is another complex figure.
Yes, an outcast initially brought back to lead Gilead against the Ammonites. He wins, but makes a rash vow that leads to personal tragedy. He also ends up fighting a civil war against the tribe of Ephraim, more internal strife.
And Samson, the strong man.
Delivered Israel from the Philistines, who oppressed them for 40 years. His birth was miraculous, foretold by an angel to his barren mother. He was to be a Nazirite consecrated, never cutting his hair, which was linked to his superhuman strength.
The angel ascending in flame, that's quite a scene.
It emphasizes the divine source of his power, but Samson is also flawed, impulsive, driven by vengeance, susceptible to temptation. His riddle at his wedding, his attacks on Philistines, his entanglement with Delilah.
Delilah finds the secret of his strength, his hair.
After several failed attempts where he tricks her, tying him with new ropes, weaving his hair into a loom, she finally wears him down. He tells her the truth about his Nazirite vow. His hair is cut, strength leaves, he's captured, blinded.
But he gets one last act of revenge.
Yes, at a Philistine festival, praying for strength one last time, he pulls down the pillars of the temple, killing himself and thousands of Philistines. A tragic end for a powerful but compromised figure.
So this whole era is marked by chaos, right? That famous line?
In those days, Israel had no king. Everyone did as he saw fit. It perfectly captures the moral and political anarchy.
Illustrated by stories like Micah, setting up his own shrine.
Exactly. Micah makes an idol, an ephod, hires a wandering Levite as his personal priest. It shows religious syncretism and decay. Then Danite spies come by looking for land and eventually steal his idols and his priest.
Just total disarray, leading to the horrific story at the end of Judges, the Benjamite War.
A truly tragic climax. A Levite's concubine is brutally assaulted and killed in a Benjamite town. The Levite sends parts of her body throughout Israel, demanding justice.
Which leads to a massive civil war.
Yes, Israel against the tribe of Benjamin. Benjamin is almost wiped out, 25,100 men killed. Then the Israelites realized they swore an oath not to give their daughters to the remaining Benjamites.
So how do they solve that?
Through more violence and kidnapping, basically. It's a horrifying endnote, starkly illustrating the depths of depravity and chaos without leadership or adherence to God's law.
This sets the stage perfectly for the demand for a king, leading us into the rise of kings, Saul and David. But first, a contrast. The Book of Ruth.
Yes, inserted here chronologically, it's like a breath of fresh air after Judges. A story of loyalty, kindness, redemption. Ruth, the Moabite widow, stays loyal to her mother-in-law Naomi.
She gleans in the fields of Boaz.
A kinsman redeemer. Naomi guides Ruth, Boaz acts honorably, marries Ruth. They become ancestors of King David. It shows faithfulness and God's quiet providence, even during the chaotic Judges period.
Okay, so then the transition to monarchy. It starts with a song.
A song attributed to Hannah, Samuel's mother. It declares God's sovereignty. He raises up, brings down, sends poverty and wealth. A reminder that even with human kings, God is ultimately in control.
But then a national crisis.
Yeah.
The Ark of the Covenant is captured.
A devastating blow, captured by the Philistines in battle. Israel loses 30,000 soldiers. Eli, the high priest's sons, die. When Eli hears the news, especially about the ark, he falls back, breaks his neck, and dies. a symbol of spiritual collapse.
This seems to fuel the people's demand for a king.
It does. They go to Samuel, the last judge and a prophet, and say, "Give us a king to lead us like all the other nations."
Samuel isn't happy about it.
No, he sees it as rejecting God as their direct king. He warns them what having a king will mean: conscription, taxes, loss of freedoms, but they insist.
And God tells Samuel to give them a king.
Yes, so Samuel anoints Saul, a tall, handsome man from the tribe of Benjamin.
Saul starts okay, but then disobedience?
Fairly quickly. Before battle, he gets impatient waiting for Samuel and offers the burnt offering himself, usurping a priestly role.
And Samuel's reaction?
"Stern, you acted foolishly. The Lord would have established your kingdom forever, but now your kingdom will not endure." Saul's dynasty is doomed from early on.
There's also mention of military weakness. Only Saul and Jonathan have proper weapons.
Yes, swords and spears. Shows the Philistines maybe controlled iron production. Jonathan, Saul's son, is brave, though, attacks a Philistine outpost almost single-handedly.
But Saul makes a rash vow.
Yes, curses anyone who eats before evening during a battle. Jonathan, unaware, eats some honey. Saul declares Jonathan must die even though his actions helped win the battle. The soldiers have to intervene to save Jonathan, show Saul's poor judgment. This is when David starts to emerge. Chosen by God, anointed secretly by Samuel.
And he gains favor in Saul's court, playing the harp, defeating Goliath.
Right, but Saul becomes intensely jealous and fearful of David's popularity and God's favor. He tries to kill David multiple times.
David has allies, though. Saul's daughter Michal.
Yes, Michal loves David. Saul gives her to David, hoping she'll be a snare, but she helps David escape Saul's soldiers by putting an idol in his bed and claiming he's sick. True loyalty to David.
And Jonathan, Saul's son.
Their friendship is legendary. They make a deep covenant. Jonathan repeatedly warns David and protects him from Saul, choosing friendship and God's will over loyalty to his increasingly unstable father.
Saul's paranoia escalates, killing priests.
Tragically, yes. He orders the execution of the priests of Nob for helping David unknowingly. A horrific massacre. David feels responsible because he went there.
David becomes a fugitive, but also a leader.
Yes, gathers a band of followers, saves the town of Keilah from Philistines, but then has to flee when he learns Saul is coming after him there, constantly on the run, yet acting justly.
And he has chances to kill Saul, but doesn't.
Two famous incidents. Once in a cave, he secretly cuts off a corner of Saul's robe. Later, he sneaks into Saul's camp while everyone's asleep and takes Saul's spear and water jug.
Why not kill him? And the pursuit.
David's reason is consistent. "I will not lift my hand against the Lord's anointed." He respects the office, the fact God chose Saul, even though Saul is acting wickedly. Remarkable restraint.
Then there's the story with Nabal and Abigail.
Right. Nabal, a wealthy but foolish man, insults David and refuses his men supplies. David prepares to attack Nabal's household in anger.
But Abigail intervenes.
Nabal's wise wife, Abigail. She gathers provisions, intercepts David, pleads for mercy, appeals to his better judgment and future kingship. Her wisdom prevents bloodshed.
And Nabal dies soon after.
Yes, the Lord strikes him down. David then marries Abigail. She's portrayed as discerning and proactive.
David even spends time living among the Philistines.
Yes, seeking refuge from Saul. But then crisis hits Ziklag, the town the Philistines gave him. Amalekites raid it, burn it, capture all the women and children, including David's wives.
Devastating. His own men talk of stoning him.
They're distraught, grieving, blaming David as his lowest point. But the text says David found strength in the Lord his God. He inquires of God using the ephod, gets direction, pursues the Amalekite, and rescues everyone. A key moment of resilience through faith.
Meanwhile, Saul's end is near.
Israel fights the Philistines on Mount Gilboa. They're routed. Saul's 3 sons, including Jonathan, are killed.
And Saul himself.
Wounded, asks his armor-bearer to kill him, but he refuses. So Saul falls on his own sword. A tragic end for Israel's first king.
The Philistines find his body.
Desecrate it. Cut off his head, strip his armor, fasten his body to a wall. Later, valiant Israelites retrieve the bodies of Saul and his sons for proper burial.
How does David react to the news? An Amalekite brings it.
Yes, an Amalekite claims he killed Saul at Saul's request. David has him executed for striking the Lord's anointed. Then David and his men mourn, weep, fast, genuine grief.
And David composes a lament.
A beautiful, moving lament for Saul and Jonathan. How the mighty have fallen. It praises their strengths, mourns their deaths, showing deep respect despite Saul's persecution. So, Saul's death clears the way for David's reign, the golden age in many ways.
He doesn't become king of all Israel immediately, though.
No. He inquires of God, is told to go to Hebron. There, the men of Judah anoint him king over Judah. There's a period of civil war with Saul's remaining son, Ishbosheth, propped up by Abner, Saul's commander.
Abner eventually defects to David, but Joab kills him.
Yes, Joab, David's own commander, kills Abner in revenge for Abner having killed Joab's brother Asahel earlier in the conflict. David condemns Joab's act but doesn't punish him severely, showing the complexities of managing powerful figures.
Eventually, David becomes king over all Israel.
Yes, the elders of Israel come to Hebron, recognize David's leadership and God's choice. They anoint him king over all Israel, uniting the kingdom, from Dan to Beersheba, the whole land.
And he captures Jerusalem, makes it his capital.
Yes, captures the Jebusite stronghold of Zion, renames it the City of David. A strategic move, creating a neutral capital between the northern and southern tribes.
Hiram of Tyre helps him build a palace.
Sends cedar logs, carpenters, masons, international recognition. This confirms to David that God has established him as king for the sake of Israel.
David also expands his family in Jerusalem. More wives and concubines?
He does, has many sons and daughters born there. While customary for kings then, this often sowed seeds for future succession problems, as we'll see.
Then comes God's major promise to David, the Davidic covenant.
Through the prophet Nathan, David wants to build God a temple, but God says no. He will build David a house, meaning a dynasty.
A lasting dynasty.
Yes. God promises David's throne will be established forever. A descendant of David will always rule. And God promises a permanent, secure place for Israel, free from oppression, a foundational covenant for Jewish and later Christian theology.
How was David's reign described generally?
He reigned justly over all Israel. His administration is listed. Joab over the army, Jehoshaphat recorder, Zadok and Ahimelech priests, his sons royal advisors, a well-organized kingdom.
And he shows kindness to Jonathan's son, Mephibosheth.
A beautiful act of covenant faithfulness. He finds Mephibosheth, who is lame, restores all of Saul's land to him, and insists he eat at the king's table always, like one of David's own sons, honoring his promise to Jonathan.
David also expands the kingdom militarily.
Significantly. Defeats Philistines, Moabites, Arameans, Syrians, Ammonites. When the Ammonite king humiliates David's messengers, David sends Joab to war. David himself leads battles, killing thousands.
And the sources emphasize God's role.
The Lord gave David victory everywhere he went. His success is attributed directly to divine favor.
But then, the great moral failure, the Bathsheba and Uriah scandal.
The dark turning point. David stays home from battle, sees Bathsheba bathing, sends for her, sleeps with her. She becomes pregnant.
He tries to cover it up, brings her husband Uriah home from the front.
Yes, tries to make it look like Uriah is the father. But Uriah, being honorable, refuses to go home to his wife while his comrades are still fighting.
So David resorts to murder.
He sends a message via Uriah himself to Joab. Put Uriah out in front where the fighting is fiercest, then withdraw from him so he will be struck down and die. Cold-blooded, Uriah is killed. David marries Bathsheba.
A terrible abuse of power. Does he get away with it?
No. The prophet Nathan confronts him with a parable about a rich man stealing a poor man's lamb. David condemns the rich man, and Nathan says, "You are the man."
The consequences are severe.
Yes, the child born to Bathsheba dies. Nathan prophesies turmoil within David's own household. The sword shall never depart from your house.
And that prophecy comes true. Family tragedy follows.
Horribly. His son Amnon rapes his half-sister Tamar. Absalom, Tamar's full brother, waits 2 years, then murders Amnon in revenge.
Absalom then rebels against David.
Yes. Flees, is eventually allowed back, but then conspires against David. He stands at the city gate, undermines David's authority by offering better justice, steals the hearts of the people.
He forces David to flee Jerusalem.
Yes, David has to escape. Absalom takes over the palace, a devastating rebellion.
How does it end?
In battle. David instructs his commanders to deal gently with Absalom, but Joab finds Absalom caught by his hair in a tree and kills him with 3 javelins. David mourns deeply. Oh, my son Absalom, my son Absalom.
More trouble later with the census.
Yes. The sources say God's anger burned against Israel, inciting David to take a census. Joab protests maybe seeing it as relying on numbers instead of God, or an act of pride.
And it leads to a plague.
God offers David a choice of punishments. David chooses 3 days of plague, saying, "Let us fall into the hands of the Lord, for his mercy is great, but do not let me fall into human hands." 70,000 people die.
How does it stop?
David sees the destroying angel near the threshing floor of Araunah the Jebusite. He confesses his sin, buys the threshing floor, builds an altar, and offers sacrifices. The plague stops.
And he insists on paying for the threshing floor.
Yes. I will not sacrifice to the Lord my God burnt offerings that cost me nothing. A profound statement about the nature of genuine sacrifice. This site later becomes the location of Solomon's temple.
So even towards the end, David is preparing for the temple.
Massively. He gathers huge quantities of gold, silver, bronze, iron, timber, urges the leaders to help his son Solomon build it. He offers a magnificent prayer of praise, acknowledging all wealth and honor come from God, setting the stage for his successor. Which brings us to zenith and decline. Solomon and the divided kingdom. David's son Solomon takes the throne.
And his reign starts famously with wisdom.
Yes. He goes to Gibeon, offers 1,000 burnt offerings. God appears to him in a dream. Ask for whatever you want me to give you.
And Solomon asks for
Not riches or long life or victory, but wisdom. An understanding heart to govern God's people and discern right from wrong. God is pleased, grants him wisdom and riches and honor unmatched by any other king.
his greatest achievement is building the temple.
Undoubtedly. The permanent structure David had planned took 7 years. A magnificent building overlaid with gold, international cooperation with Hiram of Tyre again,
The Ark of the Covenant is brought in.
placed in the most holy place, the inner sanctuary. The text notes it contained only the 2 stone tablets of the law from Moses at Horeb, Sinai. The focus remains on the covenant.
Solomon's building projects were vast, though, not just the temple.
No, his own palace took 13 years. He built administrative cities like Hazor, Megiddo, Gezer. Gezer was actually a wedding gift from Pharaoh, whose daughter Solomon married.
This required immense resources, forced labor.
Yes, he conscripted Israelites and the remaining Canaanites into forced labor gangs. This built resentment that would surface later.
But his reign was legendary for splendor and wealth.
Absolutely. Greater in riches and wisdom than all the other kings of the earth. People came from everywhere, like the Queen of Sheba, to hear his wisdom and see his wealth.
Chariots, horses, silver like stones.
1,400 chariots, 12,000 horses. Silver was so common it was considered worthless. His throne was ivory overlaid with gold, flanked by lions. Opulence on an unprecedented scale. The palace of the forest of Lebanon, full of cedar. It was spectacular.
There's a decline. Adversaries rise up.
Yes. Despite the wisdom, Solomon's heart turned away in his old age. He had many foreign wives, 700 wives, 300 concubines, who led him to worship their gods, building high places for them.
This displeased God.
Greatly, God tells Solomon he will tear the kingdom away from his son, though he'll leave one tribe, Judah, for David's sake. And God raises adversaries. Hadad the Edomite, Rezon the Aramean. Cracks appear in the empire.
So Solomon's reign ends with this foreshadowing of division, which happens under his son Rehoboam.
Immediately, Rehoboam goes to Shechem to be crowned. The northern tribes come with a request. Your father put a heavy yoke on us. Lighten the harsh labor and heavy yoke, and we will serve you.
A reasonable request, given Solomon's projects. Rehoboam consults elders.
Yes, the elders who serve Solomon advise him. Be kind, speak favorably, be a servant to these people, and they will be your servants forever. Wise counsel.
But he rejects it, listens to his young friends.
Yes, they advise him to be tough. Tell the people, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. My father laid on you a heavy yoke. I will make it even heavier. My father scourged you with whips. I will scourge you with scorpions.
Terrible political advice. What happens?
The northern 10 tribes revolt instantly. What share do we have in David? What part in Jesse's son? To your tents, O Israel. Look after your own house, O David. The kingdom splits.
Only Judah remains loyal to Rehoboam.
And the small tribe of Benjamin absorbed into Judah. The text notes this turn of events was from the Lord, fulfilling the prophecy given to Solomon, human folly serving a divine purpose. God then forbids Rehoboam from trying to reunite the kingdom by force.
So now we have 2 kingdoms, Israel in the north, Judah in the south, and a succession of kings, mostly bad.
Especially in the north, Israel. Jeroboam, the first king of Israel, sets up rival worship centers with golden calves at Dan and Bethel to prevent people going to Jerusalem, leading the north into idolatry from the start.
But some good kings in Judah, like Jehoshaphat.
Yes, Jehoshaphat walked in God's ways, removed pagan high places and Asher poles, sent officials and priests throughout Judah to teach the law. He had peace and prosperity rest on every side, shows the link between faithfulness and blessing.
He allied with Ahab of Israel, though. That nearly cost him.
Yes, Ahab was notoriously wicked. Jehoshaphat joined him in battle. The prophet Micaiah warned Ahab he'd die, but Ahab went anyway, disguised. An arrow randomly hits him. Jehoshaphat is mistaken for Ahab, cries out, and God helps him escape. Shows the danger of alliances with the ungodly.
Then Jehoram in Judah marries Ahab's daughter, That leads to trouble.
Yes, Athaliah. Jehoram does evil, and Edom rebels successfully against Judah during his reign. But God doesn't destroy Judah entirely for the sake of his servant David. That covenant holds.
Jehu brings judgment on Ahab's house in Israel.
Anointed specifically for that, a bloody purge, kills King Joram of Israel and King Ahaziah of Judah, who was visiting, has Ahab's wife Jezebel thrown from a window, kills all of Ahab's descendants in Jezreel and Samaria, wipes out Baal worship but doesn't remove Jeroboam's golden calves, zeal mixed with incomplete obedience.
In Judah, Athaliah tries to wipe out the Davidic line.
When her son King Ahaziah dies, she seizes power and kills almost all the royal family. A terrifying moment.
But one son is saved, Joash.
Yes, hidden in the temple for 6 years by his aunt Jehosheba and the priest Jehoiada. Then Jehoiada orchestrates a coup, crowns the young Joash king, executes Athaliah, and renews the covenant. The Davidic line survives.
Joash starts well under Jehoiada's influence.
Yeah.
Restores the temple.
Yes, collects funds, hires workers, repairs the temple, does right as long as Jehoiada guides him, shows the importance of good counsel. But later, after Jehoiada dies, Joash turns away.
Amaziah in Judah wins a victory, but then worships Edomite gods.
Exactly. Defeats Edom, then brings back their idols to worship, leads to his defeat by Jehoash of Israel, who breaks down part of Jerusalem's wall. Idolatry leads to humiliation.
Uzziah brings power back to Judah.
Becomes very powerful, militarily successful, builds fortifications. His fame spread far and wide. But pride leads to his downfall. He tries to offer incense in the temple, a priestly duty, and is struck with leprosy.
Then Ahaz in Judah, a real low point.
Completely embraces paganism, makes idols, sacrifices his own sons in the fire, worships at high places. As a result, Judah suffers heavy defeats by Aram and Israel. 200,000 captives taken, though a prophet Oded persuades Israel to release them.
But then Hezekiah, a great reformer in Judah.
One of the best kings. Does what is right, like David. Cleanses the temple, removes high places, smashes sacred stones, destroys the bronze snake Moses made because people were worshiping it. He trusts God deeply.
He faces the Assyrian threat. Sennacherib.
Yes. Sennacherib conquers much of Judah, besieges Jerusalem, mocks Hezekiah and God. Hezekiah prays fervently, consults the prophet Isaiah.
And God delivers Jerusalem.
Miraculously, Isaiah prophesies Sennacherib won't enter the city. That night, the angel of the Lord strikes down 185,000 Assyrian soldiers. Sennacherib withdraws. A stunning victory through faith.
But Hezekiah makes a mistake later, showing treasures to Babylonian envoys.
An act of pride, perhaps? Isaiah then delivers a sobering prophecy. Everything Hezekiah showed them, all the treasures, will eventually be carried off to Babylon, his descendants taken into exile, foreshadowing the end.
And Manasseh, Hezekiah's son, reverses all the reforms.
The worst king of Judah, according to the sources, rebuilds the high places, erects altars to Baal, puts an Asherah pole in the temple, practices sorcery, sacrifices his son, does more evil than the Amorites, leads Judah completely astray. God declares judgment is inevitable.
Then one last bright spot. Josiah.
Yes, becomes king as a child. During temple repairs, the book of the law, likely Deuteronomy, is rediscovered. Josiah reads it, tears his robes in repentance, and initiates sweeping reforms.
What kind of reforms?
Thorough cleansing, removes the Asherah pole from the temple, burns it, tears down quarters of male shrine prostitutes, destroys pagan altars throughout the land, even in the former northern kingdom, kills priests of the high places, a radical return to the covenant.
And he celebrates Passover.
A massive Passover celebration in Jerusalem, unlike any since the time of the Judges. A national act of rededication. But ultimately, it's too late to avert disaster. Josiah dies in battle against the Egyptians.
So the exile comes. Babylon conquers Jerusalem.
Yes, and Nebuchadnezzar. Destroys the city and the temple, kills many, carries off the treasures, deports the leaders and skilled workers to Babylon. The end of the kingdom of Judah.
But a final note of hope. King Jehoiachin in Babylon.
Yes, years later, Jehoiachin is released from prison by the new Babylonian king, given an allowance, and eats at the king's table for the rest of his life. A tiny sign that the Davidic line isn't extinct, that God's promises haven't totally failed. Which leads us to the final section. Return, rebuilding, and resilience. Ezra, Nehemiah, and Esther. After decades in exile, a chance to return.
Starts with Cyrus of Persia.
Cyrus conquers Babylon and, moved by God, issues a decree allowing the Jews to return to Jerusalem and rebuild the temple. An astonishing turn of events, prophesied by Isaiah. He even returns the temple vessels Nebuchadnezzar took.
But rebuilding isn't easy. Opposition.
Local officials, Samaritans, and others like Rehum and Shimshai see the returning Jews as a threat. They write letters to the Persian king calling Jerusalem rebellious, warning against rebuilding the walls. They succeed in halting the work for a time.
How does it get restarted?
Under the next king, Darius. Encouraged by the prophets Haggai and Zechariah, the leaders appeal to Darius. He finds Cyrus's original decree, confirms it, and orders the local officials to support the rebuilding. The temple is finally finished.
And they celebrate.
A joyous celebration. Passover, the feast of unleavened bread, purification, a sense of renewal and rededication after the long exile.
Then Ezra arrives, a priest and scribe.
Devoted to the law of Moses, he leads a second wave of returnees, bringing more resources. God protects them on the dangerous journey.
And he finds a major problem when he gets there, intermarriage.
Yes. Many of the people, including priests and Levites, had married foreign women from surrounding nations, contrary to the law. Ezra is devastated, tears his clothes, prays, confesses the people's sin.
How is it addressed?
He calls a public assembly. The people acknowledge their sin, agree to separate from their foreign wives. A commission is set up to investigate each case, a painful but necessary step, in their view, to maintain their distinct covenant identity.
Then Nehemiah comes. His focus is the walls of Jerusalem.
Yes. He's cupbearer to the Persian king Artaxerxes, hears about the broken down walls and the vulnerability of Jerusalem, gets permission, letters of safe conduct, and resources to go and rebuild.
He faces opposition, too. Sanballat and Tobiah.
Immediately. They're very much disturbed that someone has come to seek the welfare of the Israelites. They mock, threaten, try to intimidate Nehemiah and the workers.
How does Nehemiah handle it?
With prayer, determination, and practical planning, he secretly inspects the walls by night, organizes the people to rebuild sections near their homes, arms the workers half work, half stand guard with spears.
His famous line.
Facing threats, he says, "The God of heaven will give us success. But as for you, you have no share or claim or historic right in Jerusalem." And to his workers, "Don't be afraid of them. Remember the Lord, who is great and awesome. Our God will fight for us." Inspiring leadership.
The walls get rebuilt incredibly quickly. Then focus shifts to community restoration.
Yes. Bringing people back into the city, supporting the priests and Levites with tithes of grain, wine, oil, and a public reading of the law by Ezra.
This has a powerful effect.
Huge. Ezra reads, the Levites explain. The people understand and they weep, convicted by the law. But Nehemiah tells them not to mourn. It's a sacred day, time for joy and sharing. They celebrate the Feast of Tabernacles.
There's also a long prayer of confession, recounting God's faithfulness.
Yes, recounting their history. God choosing Abraham, the Exodus, Sinai, the wilderness, the judges, the kings, their repeated failures, God's constant mercy, the exile, and now this restoration, a powerful moment of remembering and recommitting.
Finally, in this period, the Book of Esther, a different setting, Persia.
Yes, takes place among the Jewish diaspora in the Persian capital Susa. God isn't explicitly mentioned, but his providence seems evident throughout.
Queen Vashti is deposed. Esther becomes queen.
Through a kind of beauty contest, basically. Esther, a young Jewish orphan raised by her cousin Mordecai, finds favor with King Xerxes.
Then Haman rises to power. Hates Mordecai.
Haman, an Agagite, descendant of an old enemy of Israel, gets promoted. Everyone bows to him except Mordecai, who refuses as a Jew. Haman is enraged.
And he plots genocide.
Convinces Xerxes that the Jews are troublesome and should be annihilated. Gets the king to issue a decree setting a date for the destruction of all Jews throughout the empire, with their property to be plundered. A terrifying prospect.
Mordecai gets word to Esther, urges her to intervene.
Yes. Tells her she must go to the king, even though it's dangerous. Approaching the king unsummoned could mean death. His famous line, "Who knows but that you have come to your royal position for such a time as this?"
Esther is courageous.
Asks the Jews to fast for her, then risks her life, goes to the king, invites him and Haman to banquets, strategically delays her request.
A series of coincidences.
What?
Or providence.
The king can't sleep, reads the royal chronicles, discovers Mordecai once saved his life and was never rewarded. Just then, Haman arrives to ask permission to hang Mordecai. The king asks Haman how to honor someone. Haman thinks it's him.
And ends up having to parade Mordecai through the city in royal robes. The irony.
Incredible reversal. Then, at the second banquet, Esther reveals her identity and Haman's plot. The king is furious. Haman is hanged on the very gallows he built for Mordecai.
And the Jews are saved.
The original decree can't be revoked, but Esther and Mordecai get permission to issue a new decree, allowing the Jews to defend themselves on the appointed day. They fight back successfully. Mordecai is promoted to second in command, a story of courage, timing, and hidden divine action. Okay, that brings us to the final section of sources. Reflections on wisdom, justice, and sovereignty. Job, Psalms, and Proverbs. Starting with Job.
A profound book tackling the problem of suffering. Why do bad things happen to good people?
Exactly. Job is introduced as blameless and upright, fearing God, shunning evil, extremely wealthy, happy family, the ideal righteous man.
Then Satan challenges God, says Job is only faithful because he's blessed.
Yes, the Satan, meaning the accuser or adversary, suggests Job's piety is self-serving. God permits Satan to test Job, first taking his wealth, children, then his health.
Job's suffering is intense.
Horrific. Loses everything. Covered in painful sores, worms, scabs. His wife tells him to curse God and die. His friends come to comfort him but end up accusing him.
His friends believe suffering is always punishment for sin.
That's their argument, like Eliphaz, who, being innocent, has ever perished. They insist Job must have sinned secretly to deserve this.
Job maintains his innocence, but questions God.
He does. He doesn't curse God, but he laments his birth, questions God's justice. How can a mortal be righteous before God? He acknowledges God's immense power and wisdom, but feels unfairly targeted, like God is hunting him like a lion. Raw anguish.
After the long debates with his friends, God finally answers Job.
From a whirlwind. But God doesn't give Job easy answers about why he suffered. Instead, he confronts Job with his own majesty, wisdom, and power displayed in creation.
Asking Job questions he can't answer about cosmology, meteorology, strange animals.
Right. Where were you when I laid the earth's foundation? Descriptions of the wild ox, the ostrich, the war horse, then the magnificent creatures behemoth and leviathan, symbols of immense, untamable power, perhaps chaos itself that only God controls.
What's the effect on Job?
He's humbled. He realizes his limited perspective. Surely I spoke of things I did not understand, things too wonderful for me to know. My ears had heard of you, but now my eyes have seen you. Therefore I despise myself and repent in dust and ashes. He finds peace not in answers, but in the encounter with God himself.
It's a profound conclusion. Then we have the Psalms, a collection of songs, prayers.
A whole spectrum of human emotion and experience directed towards God. Praise, lament, thanksgiving, wisdom, royal psalms, prayers for help.
God is portrayed as sovereign king and righteous judge.
Absolutely. Kings of the earth are warned to be wise, serve the Lord. God reigns forever, judges justly, provides refuge for the oppressed, defends the needy. His word is flawless, trustworthy.
Lots of calls to praise and trust.
Constantly. Praise God for his goodness, his steadfast love that endures forever, his faithfulness. It is better to take refuge in the Lord than to trust in humans, even princes. Those who fear God delight in his commands.
But also deep lament, cries of anguish.
Yes, many psalms express profound sorrow, feeling abandoned, forgotten by God, weeping, groaning, my God, why have you forsaken me?" It validates the full range of human feeling in relationship with God.
But they usually turn back to hope.
Almost always. Even in the depths, there's a turn towards trust, remembering God's past faithfulness, affirming his mercy, his closeness to the brokenhearted, anticipating his deliverance. It's a powerful model of wrestling with faith.
Creation is a big theme too.
God's wisdom and power in creation. Setting the earth's foundations, setting boundaries for the sea, making springs flow, filling the earth and sea with creatures, including Leviathan again, this time portrayed almost playfully. All creatures depend on God for food.
Warnings against wickedness are strong too.
The wicked plot against the righteous, prosper temporarily, seem carefree, but judgment is coming. Those who sacrifice children to idols pollute the land of stark condemnation.
And the covenant with David is reaffirmed.
God's promise to establish David's throne forever is mentioned, though sometimes lamented when it seems like God has forgotten or broken the promise during times of national distress.
There's that beautiful psalm about unity.
Psalm 133. How good and pleasant it is when brothers live together in unity. Compared to precious oil, refreshing dew, highlighting the value of community harmony.
And God's omnipresence. Can't escape him.
Psalm 139. Whether ascending to heaven, making one's bed in the depths, settling on the far side of the sea, God is there. Even darkness is not dark to him. His presence is inescapable.
And human creation.
Also Psalm 139. I praise you because I am fearfully and wondrously made. Your works are wonderful. A profound affirmation of human value, intricately known by God even before birth. Finally, the Proverbs. Practical wisdom for daily life.
Presented as a contrast. Wisdom versus folly.
Yes, personified often. Wisdom calls out in public places, urging people to listen. Folly is loud, seductive, leads to ruin. It's about choosing the right path.
Key themes. Truthfulness. prudence.
Truthful lips endure forever, but a lying tongue lasts only a moment. Honesty has lasting value. Prudence is praised. A prudent man keeps knowledge to himself, while a fool blurts out folly. Discretion is key.
Consequences of actions are clear. Diligence versus laziness.
Very clear cause and effect. Diligent hands will rule, but laziness ends in slave labor. Hard work pays off. Misfortune pursues the sinner, but prosperity is the reward of the righteous. There's a moral order. Ignoring discipline leads to poverty and shame.
What about relationships and justice?
Don't show partiality to the wicked in judgment. Don't deprive the innocent of justice. Avoid gossip, it separates friends. Covering over an offense promotes love. Overlooking an offense is a mark of glory. Focus on reconciliation.
God is mentioned as a source of security.
The name of the Lord is a strong tower. The righteous run to it and are safe. Trust in God provides ultimate security.
And some realistic observations about human nature.
Wealth attracts many friends, but even the closest friend of the poor person deserts them. A sometimes harsh but realistic portrayal of social dynamics. Proverbs offers practical, moral, and spiritual guidance grounded in the fear of the Lord. So we've covered an incredible amount of ground today, from creation stories through the formation of a people, the rise and fall of kingdoms, exile, return, and then these deep reflections on wisdom and suffering.
It really is an amazing breadth of material. You see these threads running through covenant, law, justice, human failure, divine faithfulness, consequence. It's a testament to the enduring insights in these texts.
Absolutely. They offer perspectives that still resonate thousands of years later. They're not just history. They're deep dives into human nature, governance, our search for meaning, our relationship with the divine.
And you really see that constant theme of consequence, don't you? Choices matter,
Yep.
individually and nationally. But also, that thread of divine faithfulness, God sticking with his promises even through generations of failure.
It is striking these narratives consistently return to that dynamic. It definitely invites you to think about patterns in our own time, our own lives.
We've seen these grand, sweeping narratives, but also intensely personal stories and reflections. That makes you think. Well, in our age, with just this overload of information constantly coming at us, where do you find your own foundational principles? What anchors you?
That's a great question for everyone listening.
And maybe,
They.
what surprising truths might you uncover if you really took the time to delve deeply into sources like these? Sources you perhaps thought you knew, but maybe only scratched the surface of. What might they reveal about your own journey?
Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep getting well informed.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.